Today, I want to talk to all of you about deep breathing and children regarding emotion regulation. Now, this works for adults, it works for teens, it works for kids, and it's probably the simplest way to get kids and adults' brains back online out of that. We call that flipping your lid state, which is where the emotional brain essentially hijacks the upstairs brain. The upstairs brain is the thinking part of the brain. It's in part of executive functioning. And when we get really emotional, our limbic system or our emotional brain essentially hijacks the ability of our upstairs brain to function. And we essentially flip our lid, which means the two parts of the brain are no longer communicating very well. Now, when kids flip their lid, we get all kinds of behaviors and big emotions. We get crying, we get, tantrums, yelling, throwing, spitting. They say things they don't mean. You're the worst parent in the world, or I can't do it. And so we get a lot of really negative self-talk that comes with this. And as much as I would love to give you guys a bunch of complicated strategies, which often I get asked to give, it's not complicated. Mother Nature had a plan for anxiety. And one of the ways we can do this is by deep breathing. Now, where it fails most people is they assume 10 breaths. And I would argue based on the science that should be more like 10 to 15 minutes of deep breathing is going to get the lid back online. So no wonder kids and teenagers and adults alone feel defeated when they do 10 breaths and it doesn't work. The 10 breaths was meant as a pause, just to pause and get some perspective for a second. But what we really have to do is get kids into a place, or teens, into a place where they're doing deep breaths in through the diaphragm, into the stomach, and it causes the stomach to expand. And when the stomach expands, it hits something called the vagus nerve in the spinal cord and sends a message essentially up to the brain stem, which is kind of the central nervous system part of your brain. It's all organisms have a brain stem. It's what's in charge of your body. And then it sends a message to the emotional brain, the limbic system, and particularly this part called the amygdala. And the amygdala is really the part of the brain that is looking for danger and is trying to protect you. And when we do those big breaths and we stimulate the vagus nerve, it sends a message to the amygdala saying, no threat, no threat, no threat. Because if there was a threat, you would be breathing really fast to oxygenate your blood. You'd be going... Because for millions of years that we've been developing as human beings, for 2 million years, there were things that could eat us. There were things that could harm us. So we have evolved this amygdala, which is not great about distinguishing whether something is dangerous or not, because it has to keep us safe. And at the end of the day, our brain's number one priority, the number one thing it is meant to do, is not to create or nurture. It is meant to keep us safe. So we have to tell that amygdala it needs to calm down. There is no saber-toothed tiger. There's no tornado. There's no threat. So by doing those deep breaths, it's signaling there mustn't be a threat, because if there was, I would be doing that really shallow breathing. And that shallow breathing, if there is a threat, has a good purpose. We oxygenate our blood then runs to our extremities so we can run or fight a predator. So it does have, or run away from inclement weather or an avalanche. It pumps us up so we can be strong. But we don't want that part activated, which is the amygdala that is causing a lot of the anxiety in kids and teens. So deep breathing, that is why we do it. That is the neurobiology behind deep breathing. Now, there are lots of ways you can do this with kids. You can have them breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I would say about 4 to 5 seconds in and 1 second longer out. So in through the nose, out through the mouth like pursed lip. So a little bit longer on the out breath. And you can do things like blow bubbles. So you could have some bubbles and they do this and they have bubbles go everywhere. They could have like a windmill that you could blow on. You can put, they can lay down on a bed and put a cup on their stomach and watch the cup rise up and down. You could put a balloon under their shirt and they can watch the balloon go up and down. You can have them put their arms behind their back. This opens up the chest cavity 10 times to allow the air in more easily. And if you don't believe me, try crossing your arms and taking deep breaths. You'll notice that the breath will get stuck in your chest. So you can open up with the deep breaths that way. Often I'll tell kids to put one hand on their heart, one hand on the stomach, and the hand on the stomach has to breathe, has to move bigger than the hand on the chest. So that way we know the air is going down and into the stomach. Another great way is to purchase, if you can, like a mindfulness app. So you can do a guided meditation. And I often suggest this to adults as well. There are ones like Calm, which is free for teachers, by the way, if you're an educator. The Smiling Mind app is another great one for kids, and it allows them to do a guided meditation while doing deep breathing. And I always suggest if you're going to do any of these things with kids, do it with them. You're carving basically a new skill, and those new skills take practice, but they require an adult to show them the way. So please do this with them, and it'll be good for you too, for your own emotion regulation. And if the deep breathing, your kiddo will not sit to do deep breathing. What's an alternative? Move their body or do yoga. Those are my two. When we move our bodies, we get something called GABA that's released from our stomach, which is a neurotransmitter that basically reduces stress hormones in the body. It reduces cortisol. It reduces adrenaline. Now, yes, you get a spike of adrenaline when you run or when you work out because you're pumping your body up. But afterwards, as soon as you're done, you will de-escalate very quickly, which is why exercise is recommended for depression and anxiety. It's because of the GABA that is released, and you also get some dopamine in there too, which is in charge of motivation, and it plays a factor in mood regulation as well. So these are just some things that you can do with the body to get kids' lids back on, to get their rational thinking back on, and to tame the central nervous system. I cannot overstate enough how important deep breathing is in terms of controlling the body. This is why I'm such a big fan of mindfulness and yoga and exercise. It all involves deep breathing and using the breath to help control the body. So hope you guys have a great day, and I hope this little clip was helpful for you.